Hi, this is Chris from Clever Unicorn Games and the Unicorn Collective, back with another interview. Today we have artist and illustrator Sarah Mills. How are you doing today, Sarah?
Hi, I'm well. How are you?
Pretty good. Getting a bit late here, but it's just I can see the light coming through the window
Mm-hmm.
behind you there. It's still I think we said 2 o'clock in the or 2:30 in the
Mm-hmm.
afternoon
It's
now.
yeah, bright, sunny 2:30.
What's it like in North Carolina? That's kind of the middle of the United States,
Mid-Atlantic, yeah.
isn't it? Yeah, so it's
Mhm.
probably still kind of warm there, is it?
We've actually had a pretty warm week, yeah. I live not too far from the beach, so like I guess didn't expect it to be so warm in October. But now I'm bummed that I scheduled a lot of things to do to work, and now I'm just like I should. It's so warm out. The beach is like right over. It's I've been cooped up all year long. I need to go to the beach.
Yeah, it's good. It's funny that where the island. I mean, it's a bit colder here now, but the island that I live on is only 34 miles long by 14 miles wide. So if I
Wow.
go anywhere for 10 minutes, I'm at the beach. In fact, there is a
Yeah.
beach within 5 minutes, but if I go in any other direction, it doesn't take long to get to a beach as well. Yeah,
It's
we were out
awesome.
watching. It pretty cold, but some nice waves at the moment. So we were watching some people surfing,
Mm,
and getting wiped out, which is the funniest part. As long as I don't get hurt, it's always funny seeing a
yeah.
set of legs go one way and a surfboard go the other way.
Yeah.
um, so when you are not doing art and illustrating, what is it you like to do with your spare time?
So I basically video games. That's kind of kind of video games. At least this year anyway. I like to knit. I like to tend plants. Like to like I said, go to the beach. And take care of my little dog. Just hanging out. But honestly, like painting takes up a lot of time. I paint for work and then get all tired from a long day at work. And then I close the document I was working on, and then open another painting document and start painting for fun. It's kind of
That's good, isn't it? It's keeping yourself going for fun as well. I think that's part. As long as you're still doing that, it means you're still enjoying it.
yeah.
So yeah, no, that is good. Video games wise, I mean, what sort of games have you been playing? I mean, I know everybody's been doing a lot more video games over the last 8 months or
Oh
whatever
yeah.
it is. What is it that you usually switch on? Are you a PC gamer? Are you a console gamer? What kind of?
I'm a PC gamer. I don't. I do have the Nintendo Switch, like everybody, because it's great. But I have a gaming PC. As ashamed as I am to admit, and I play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds like a lot,
Oh right, okay.
like a lot. Yeah. It is not my usual like purview. I'm tend to more like the like fun, easy, casual games that don't stress you out or stuff that is not really competitive. But PUBG is the one game where like I'm close to like 2,000 hours in that game at this
Wow.
point. Like every night I'm
And
on
there's nothing
PUBG.
more stressful than being in that last three or the last five. So
Oh Jesus. Yeah, like it's my friends and I joke like it's reassuring to have a game that no matter how many times you play it or how long you play it, it's not gonna get less scary. Like
yeah,
there's nothing you can do to not just
yeah.
freak out when you're what the last one.
I never really played. I don't think I ever played PUBG, but I did play a lot of Apex Legends, which is
Mm,
similar sort of thing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah,
same kind of energy, yeah,
yeah, it's the same kind of energy. It's all running, and then just hiding
and
and
then
being
die.
terrified when you get to the
Yeah,
last few and you have no idea where anybody is,
yeah,
just poking your head out and
yeah.
hoping not to get shot. Yeah, no.
Mhm.
What is your favorite? So, are you quite new to board gaming? Is it just sort
Pretty.
of coming into it?
Yeah, yeah, pretty new to board gaming. I feel like I'm at the very beginning of like I mentioned, very beginning of a tumbling descent headlong into board games. Um, I do so like I feel like I don't know a lot of the classic board games or the board games that are really big and popular right now, but I have joined a Discord group called Virtual Playtesting.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yep. That's why a couple
yeah,
of my friends run that. Yeah, yeah,
yeah. It's amazing. Like for I guess for the audience sake, they started like 5 months ago or something like
yep,
that, and they've already got like 1,000 members. Being for like new developers or like first time developers, you see like I've playtested a good amount of times in there, and you see
yep,
so many games that like. I'm not a developer myself. I can't really. I could talk about game mechanics, but it's not my forte. But having those conversations and seeing the like just the raw like seed of
yep,
an idea that people have that they're trying to work up. It feels very akin to the kind of puzzle solving that you have to do as a painter,
yep.
which is endlessly fascinating to me. It's just like a really long form puzzle of, okay, if I tweak this mechanic, then this changes, or how does this point differential feel for the players, it does feel very much like the thing that I love about painting, which is like, what does this change in like literal shape or color do to the emotional experience of the person who's watching it. So yeah, it's like, if you're gonna ask me about what kind of board games I like to play, I'm not gonna be able to give you an answer, because the answer is like all these like random raw board games that people have. That's what I've been spending most of my time playing recently.
What's your favorite so far? What's one that you've played that is a favorite that you've had a go
Um,
at? Like one that's been
so
released, let's say.
far.
But no, if is there one even at the virtual playtesting group that you've played and you've thought that might be my favorite, even though it's not published?
I'm not gonna be able to remember the name of it. I might be able to get it to you to like put in the description or something. But there
Yeah,
was one game that was it was like a worker management kind of situation where you were the design or the art style that they had at present was like really abstract and weird. But you're like matching shapes to like put components together to create materials, and then spending those materials on like evolving your workers and making your assembly line more efficient. It was just it was kind of both really tactile and really mental. And making like the way that the shapes locked together was really interesting to me. So I can't remember the name of it. It started with an R, but I will get you the name of it to be able to put in the YouTube
yeah, no,
description.
no, that'd be brilliant. I'll stick it in the links. I mean, that does sound really interesting. And how did it work out okay on the virtual? What was it, tabletop simulator that it
Yeah,
was
on
using?
tabletop sim.
How did
Yeah.
it? And they got the pieces to interlock and work really well in on that platform.
Yeah, they did. The person who made it did a scripting thing in tabletop sim where the cars just kind of snapped
Yeah,
to where they were supposed to go. It was not like a like 3D pieces, not like miniatures. It was just
yeah.
like the cards, the way that you laid them
Ah,
down
okay.
and flipped them. So and that made like different kind of shapes as you went. But yeah, that one was a lot of fun. I only tested it like once, and then I think we got through another half test. But it was one of those concepts that like seemed kind of heady at first, or like I didn't quite understand it, but then as soon as you started going, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, I see. Like you immediately, like once I got the hook in my brain, I could see the kind of like fractaling out implications of my choices, and that was really satisfying to me. And like I said, that was like a really early early version of the game, but I
Yeah.
was really excited to see where it was going to
Yeah,
go.
the only way is up from there. Yeah.
Hmm.
No, that does sound good. I'll speak to Chris as well. Have you spoke to Chris Backy who runs it?
Yeah,
He's
we've hung
yeah,
out a little
lovely guy.
bit.
I'm working on something with him at the moment. Me and him are
Oh, that's
working on a
awesome.
game, so yeah, he's a good guy.
Hmm.
Knows his stuff as well. Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm not here to blow Chris's trumpet. Um, what inspired you? So what is it that inspired you to start illustrating and yeah.
Hmm. It is so I've always had a fascination with drawing and painting. I was just one of those kids, like all kids draw and paint. I was just one that refused to stop doing it, to not to let it go. Every grade that I was in, at least once a year, I would get in trouble with the teachers for, like doodling in the margins or like turning in a test that had drawings all over it. It's just something that I have never stopped. It's a way that I kind of process my curiosity and understanding. Visual. I'm a very visual learner, so the drawing is really the framework upon which I append like every other thing that I want to learn about. Um, so yeah, it's not a like there's no really one thing that I can point to. It's just I just love it. I'm just everything that I learn and get into, I tie back to like, oh, that'd be fun to paint, or I wonder how that got made. Obviously with art being such like in every media, entertainment, everything that you buy, there's art to be found there. So it's really hard to, for someone I guess who's kind of addicted to it. It's hard not to look at a thing and wonder how that art got made for me.
Yeah, they used to at my school. They were kind of very anti-creativity, and yeah, anytime
Yeah.
you doodled on the books, on not the textbooks, but your little workbooks, or if you doodled,
Hmm.
especially on the covers or inside the covers, they'd make you wrap them in like wrapping paper or wallpaper or whatever, and cover it up. Um,
Uh,
and then when you drew on
it's
that,
horrible.
they'd make you wrap that up as well. It's terrible.
It's horrible. It's like
Yeah,
kids, kids want to like be creative. Just let
exactly.
people do stuff. I remember the earliest instance I can remember getting in trouble was I was in first grade and our teacher had us copy down multiplication tables. And so I completed my regular work And then I had like, the multiplication tables in arrangement on a page, and then I started like color coding them and like doodling around the edges and like making little frames and stuff. And then I got in trouble for that.
Yeah.
Even though, like, really knowing myself, color coding
Yeah.
them probably did help cement it in my brain,
Yeah.
But like, how can you tell the difference between that and just like a kid that's not paying attention?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's come a long way now, though. I think they do try and encourage it more, but I think that most, I don't know what it's like in America, but our curriculums for our education are still rooted in, learning from 30, 40 years ago. It's still not really
Yeah.
progressed on a huge amount since then. I mean, I don't think
Yeah.
they've still got the fact that if you make learning fun, kids learn
Hmm.
more. I still don't think that that's been taken on board, but maybe
Yeah.
one day. Maybe one day.
One day.
Let our
We can
kid
hope.
let our kids doodle on the outside
Yeah.
of their
Let
books.
kids learn and play things and, read graphic novels. That counts as reading.
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Um,
There's, yeah.
where do you start? So if you get a project, like somebody gives you a brief, where do you start
Mhm.
first? Where is it you go to? Pencil,
So,
digital. Which
mhm.
which way is your preferred method?
So this is assuming that we're already like, I'm a very like top level kind of person. I like to see the whole thing as I'm designing like the artwork. I want my work to really serve whatever project it's on. So after I guess step zero is pester the director or the designer or whoever it is that like, okay, so what's this? What does this mean? How is my work going to interact with the person? Like after I'm done asking all those annoying questions, usually I will I have a little book full of pre-made thumbnail squares that it's like really cheap material, and there's a zillion of them in there, and I just start trying to iterate like however many ideas I need, like really low pressure, off the cuff, just like from kind of not even really thinking about it. How do I want this to feel ultimately, on like a base gestural kind of level. um, and then I like after a couple iterations kind of like find whichever one of those works, and then I'll go find references for it and start like formally putting together a piece.
Okay. Have you ever hit any barriers in your creation process on a project that seriously got in the way and stopped you? And then how did you overcome it?
Hmm, that stopped me and then overcame it. Yeah, there's two instances I can think of specifically with on Dog Spawn game, the project we just completed. The first one, the way to overcome it was for me to excuse my own ego and get out of the way and just hire another expert to take care of it. um, we were I'm speaking specifically of the graphic design
Yeah.
on Dog Spawn game. Obviously illustration and graphic design are two different things, and while some artists, some games don't, you can kind of get away with just having the art speak for itself. This was not one of those situations, and so Alex was kind enough to come all the way out from California to North Carolina, where I live, so that we could, meet each other in person and I could play the game. We spent time going to game shops, just like pulling boxes off the shelf and taking the cards out and looking like, okay, I like this part of this one, as part of this one, like doing some really in depth, in person, like look development for the game. At that point, I had already done some paintings, and we knew what we wanted the illustrations to feel like, but we didn't know what the rest of the thing would look like. We didn't know what it would feel like. I kept asking him like, what do you think the vibe is gonna be like when all is said and done? The vibe. What's the vibe? And poor Alex was like, I don't know. Like I can't answer these
I
like
just write
these.
the rules. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, so I remember like, taking a couple stabs at it, and Alex and I were very on the same page at that point about like our own, we knew what we wanted the illustrations to look like. He knew what he wanted the gameplay to feel like, but that sort of bit in between, I was really feeling the absence of really solid design. So like I took a couple stabs at it. I tried to give a recommendation on what I wanted it to feel like, and it just like I could tell that like maybe we could muddle through, but really I think the solution to this problem is just we get somebody else. And so as I was like trying really hard to work through this problem at first, before I was, because I wanted, at that point it was just me and Alex, and I really wanted to give him an answer for what it should look like, or he's gonna hire a designer, what do we tell them, what recommendation do we give them? I was trying so hard. Uh, I'm lucky enough that my best friend of like 10 plus years, Kiki, is a really amazing graphic designer. And so as we were just on the phone catching up one day, and I was telling her about this problem that I was having of like, I don't know what the best thing to do here. And we had talked to other graphic designers at that point. We had like interviewed them, and they were asking us questions like, well, what do you want the design to look like? And I'm like, I don't know. This is the problem. Like I can't, my brain just doesn't work that way. And so Kiki was just like, okay, so do you think it would look like, how about this? And she like within the space of a 10-minute conversation pulled 4 or 5 different examples off of Google that like felt they had that vibe that we were looking for. And she was like, yeah, you should probably do this and this. And I'm like, oh my God, you fixed it. You didn't ask us what we wanted it to look like. You gave a recommendation that was like, this is probably what it needs to look like. And so like I remember, talking to Alex like, okay, look, I know that she's my friend and obviously I'm going to recommend her, but also, she just fixed this problem for free in the space of 10 minutes that you and I spent a whole weekend in board game shops trying to fix. So yeah, that was like at that point I just stopped. Like I'm not going to continue, on the treadmill of trying to do something that I know that I'm not good at, and just be like, no, we need like, I'm making space in my like artistic process. Want the illustrations and the design to both like come together from the ground up to really uplift the gameplay. They really all need to work together. So yeah, that was that. The design early on in the game kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I was like, okay, you know what? Nope, no more. We need an expert. But so an example of overcoming a problem was the. So I saw in Alex's interview. I've got the game right here. Actually, we have a part of the game where at the end, when you match your adopter and your dog, the like pictures fit together kind of seamlessly. And this like solution that we got is pretty simple. It's just like the same picture and the dog's in more or less the same pose, and then it fits together. It makes a little picture. When Alex pitched that, it was so much more complicated than it. This was. By the way, this idea of like, hey, I have 8 different adopters, 8 different dogs, and I need their cards to like, beat the cards, but also I need the back of the cards to like be able to interlock with one another and every potential combination. That was like when it was just an idea, I was like, this problem was an art test that he asked for. Like as a test, he was like, please solve this problem for me. And so luckily Alex he's so easy to work with, and was willing to have a conversation about like where I was basically like, I'm willing to do you a painting as a test for this, but I can't promise that it's going to work because you have, 16 different pieces that all need to be able to interlock with one another. We also floated the idea of like, okay, but what if, you could like chain a bunch of dogs and make like a full panoramic thing? What if we could you allow for future expansions where we have like houses or occupations? It was just like this enormous blue sky idea. And I did a lot of tests. I did a lot of trying to puzzle this out. A lot of like matrices where you draw like, okay, if I make this decision, then it has to work, just a lot of puzzling it out.
It does seem like a lot of work to add to it.
Yeah. And so like it was a lot of like doing my homework to make sure that I knew the idea that I had was going to work, but also whittling down some of those, some of those complications, and really like I did my due diligence to tell Alex like if I'm recommending that this isn't going to work, it's only because I genuinely did give it my best shot in trying to make this idea work. It was really like I had to chase a lot of blind alleys. I had to, confirm genuinely like and to Alex's credit, he absolutely is, like I said, amazing to work with and trusted me very much. So I'm like, okay, I try to function both as an illustrator and an art director a little bit, right? Like I'm not just going to ask you, what do you want it to look like? I'm going to give you recommendations on what I think it should look like based on my experience. So in this instance, it was very much a moment of like, okay, I'm totally with you on this feeling of like, when you win the game and you get adopted and get to flip over, it's a beautiful moment, totally with you. We're gonna have to make a couple concessions on, we can't make it infinite. We can't allow for every contingency. And so yeah, that whole process was quite a bit of work, quite a bit of like A/B testing. But I think I'm pretty happy with what we ended up with, in both the way that all the pieces slot together and the fact that like we can, however many dogs we add, we can put
Yeah.
extras in there, put new adopters, and yeah.
Yeah, no, it does. It looks great, and you've touched on something
Yeah.
very, very important there. It's the fact that with a lot of small designers, hiring illustrators and the relationship between you, it is you are both the art director. So it's not like with a
Mhm.
big company where you've got an art director that will liaise with the designer and then liaise with the artist and tell the artist what the designer wants. In this
Yeah.
kind of small project, you are both kind of acting as an art director, and in that you're getting some feedback from the designer, but he isn't an artist, so then you have to then
Mhm.
take what he said and then give him feedback back on what will work and what won't work. So it is a
Yeah.
completely different relationship to what it would be if you were working with a bigger company or a larger budget. So yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
What would you say makes a good relationship between an illustrator and a games designer or publisher? What is it that you enjoy about the relationship, and are there any things that you maybe don't enjoy? But obviously, you don't have to say that Alex was a monster or a
Not putting
tyrant.
Alex on
Yeah,
blast. Yeah.
yeah. Pick other
Yeah.
projects. No, not this one. But yeah, what is it makes a
Yeah.
good relationship? Would you say?
I think there's a lot of like little things that I could say that, maybe other projects have lacked or other directors have lacked, but as long as just overhead, as long as we all care about the user's experience or the player's experience. If the is this decision going to be a net positive or a net negative for the end player's experience, as long as we're all working by like that yardstick, then I feel like we can get get around other little things. I think Alex has been very he's done an amazing job of like, understanding everybody's strengths. He's a designer, he's not an artist. I'm an artist, I'm not a designer. I feel I speak with a lot of relatively a lot of amount of experience on like, if we make this decision in this painting, it's going to read as X, Y, or Z. And he's done a great job of trusting that when I make a judgment call based on the art from like an art director role, he goes, "Yep, yep, totally." We don't have to fight about this, because like if we or even if it's not a like a power trip thing, it's not like I'm the client and I'm going to tell you, this is what I want for my game. It's like, as long as we are all collectively working to serve the player's experience, then there's no, there's really no disagreements to be had, because like it's one goal that we all agree is the best solution, and just different ways of getting to that solution. So yeah.
Great answer. Um, You're quite new to it, but I'll ask the question anyway because it's unfair if I've asked everybody else. Have you so far played any board games that you did not like? And you don't have to name them, but what
Mhm.
kind of game was it, or what was it that made you not like the game?
There was and so I mentioned that I most of the games that I've played so far have been in development games. So
Yeah.
it's not exactly fair to say that this
Oh
one
no,
game
no. Give us a name. Give us a game. Where
a
where do
name,
they
a
live?
developer,
No.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's their social? Yeah,
Yeah.
no. It was but a recurring theme of what loses me as a player is when the core gameplay hook is too far obscured behind the premise or behind the setup or behind like, if every time I try and make a decision towards something, there's a little rule that's like, no, well, actually, you can't, or you can, but you gotta, like really rules heavy stuff. I really see the appeal in it. But if you have to read the whole rule book before you're even introduced to what the idea of the gameplay hook is, then it's like, okay, I'm so bored. Like, I just give my brain something to, tell me. Like, I'll wade through your rule book just fine if I know what the hook is going to be. If you can't tell me that, then it just seems like you just want you have like a list of math problems for me to do, and like I'm an artist, I don't math that it doesn't I can't do math. So, or even if like I have a, like I said, like I don't really mind rules heavy stuff, but as
Yep.
long as I understand the end to which I am trying to
Yes.
check, like, is I know at least what my goal is and what the hook is. So like as long as I have that context, then like sure, I'll flip through a rule book. It's not, I do prefer more like snappier kind of casual games, but
Yeah.
like yeah, sure, I'll wade into something heavy. But yeah, it's like that, if the hook, if the purpose of why we're all at the table is so far obscured, then I'm just gonna fall
Fall
asleep in my
asleep. Yeah.
chair. Yeah.
Um, have you got any advice that you would give to a new illustrator or artist wanting to get into board game illustration?
mm, Board game illustration. Yeah, uh I would recommend definitely as early as you can either play the game or get a physical, I'm not just talking about tabletop simulator, a like in your hands version of what you're trying to play, even if it's like index cards or whatever. Because that really like changes how your brain is regarding the thing that you're making. Keeping that end goal in mind is going to be really important when you're crafting from the ground up. So like I have, I make paintings of all different sizes for all different kinds of things. But you have to be able, like, for example, we've got, let's see, I don't know where my cards are here. We have event cards that happen. So you're telling a story as the game unfolds. You draw a card, and it's a little story moment that's happening. And so while I was playing this game, I did some art for it before Alex and I got together. But once we were playing the game, I understood like I'm not. It's not just that the art is small. Like this is a very tiny canvas.
Yeah.
The art is small, and it's across the table, and it's moving in someone's hand as they're drawing their card and putting it down. So like I can make, if this is going to be like a book or on in an art book or something, that's one thing. Somebody's reading it, it's only this far. But I'm making a composition that is a story moment that is going to have to be read like in just an instant across the table from something while it's moving. That is a totally different way to think about my compositions. So like I knew right away by playing it, it just cemented in my brain that like okay, these story moments have to be like, it's so simple. They have to be really like relatively high in contrast. The compositions have to be able to be read instantly.
Yep.
And it's got to fit the kind of emotion that's happening when you're drawing this card. Like we have explosion cards that it's like, uh-oh, something bad is happening, and it kind of like stops the gameplay for a second. Those compositions tend to be more static. You have steel cards where somebody has to reach across the table and take something from your hand, and those compositions are a little bit more exciting. Just the like understanding the getting as early as you can, get as close as you can to what the player's experience is going to be, because that's going to shape every decision that you make on the artwork itself.
But yeah, brilliant.
And
This has been brilliant. Thank you very much for coming and talking to me today, Sarah.
of course, yeah, thank you so much for having me.